You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of a short story through to line edits of a full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
The you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, broadcasting from our network studios at WNJC 1360 AM and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. And I'll tell you, it is a gorgeous day here in the Mid-Atlantic. April 3rd in the year of our Lord 2017. It was about 67 or 68 degrees coming in to the studios this afternoon. It's a great day to be alive, and I understand that Judge Gorsuch has passed out of the senatorial committee that was reviewing him, the Judiciary Committee, and he'll be up for a vote later this week.
Well, that's good news. That is very good news. And there's also rumblings and grumblings in the Senate that people like Chuck Schumer are going to filibuster.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the expression spitting in the wind?
How about obstructionist? No,
let's be fair. I mean, the Republicans didn't like anything that President Obama did, and they obstructed. Not enough of it, actually. But it's a game that both parties play. The question is who holds the trump cards. See that pun, trump cards?
The trump cards.
And I think it's the GOP.
All right.
Because they're not going to tolerate the relatively new use of a filibuster to prevent a well-qualified judge from being confirmed for the United States Supreme Court.
Well, they now say that they want to bork them. Referring to a previous Supreme Court nominee.
Judge Bork, who was nominated by Ronald Reagan to the Supreme Court, was attacked like being attacked by a pack of wolves. Mm-hmm. He was an accomplished constitutional expert, absolutely at the top of the judicial profession, and his flaw was to think that the questions posed to him required an honest response. So he gave honest and detailed responses because he had a fertile and productive mind, and that simply drove the Democrats crazy. The idea that he would rule based on the Constitution and laws as written by Congress and signed by the president drove the Democrats crazy. I read a quote. Then Senator Joe Biden asked a question where he implied, in his viewpoint, he has his own viewpoint. Everyone's viewpoint is fair enough to them. In his viewpoint, that God's humanity ensured certain protections for people. And Bork, in his way, said, well, God and his angels will take care of God's work, but on this on this world, we follow the law as it's written. And that simply sent the liberals into spasms, and they proceeded to destroy a very good man's reputation. And since that time, you can't get a straightforward, honest answer from a judicial candidate, appointee to the Supreme Court. The most representative example is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. There's now what's called the Ginsburg rule. Virtually every question she was asked about why she ruled, what she thinks, or what she might do, she said, well, it would tilt future arguments if I disclosed my
but that was okay because she was a liberal.
She was a liberal. She passed, I think, 99-0.
Yeah, so she didn't get any.
But the Ginsburg rule now applies to everyone who comes in. So now it's simply not a matter. It's not, as it should be, a matter of how someone responds to questions as they measure his judicial temperament. It's purely a partisan exercise.
And then they ask these questions that ask him to speculate on speculative cases. And if I was him, I would have said, listen, there's not a case in front of me about this. When there's a case in front of me, I'm going to use the rule of law. I'm going to use the Constitution to settle it. And then he was asked about precedent. And it was one of those idiotic California congresswomen or senators who was asking about precedent, and she was referring to abortion, Roe v. Wade. And I would have said, well, what about precedent when it comes to Second Amendment rights? If you want to talk about precedent when it comes to abortion, shouldn't we also talk about precedent when we refer to Second Amendment rights? No, I will rule on the cases that are in front of me in the Supreme Court. And once again, I'll respectfully say, I'm going to rule on the rule of law and the Constitution.
Yeah,
not feelings.
Yeah, but
rule of law and
Rick,
Constitution.
You can't use the C word around liberals.
Well, they need to get used to it once again. They need to get used to it once
again.
Well,
if you think they're apoplectic now, wait until probably Ginsburg or Anthony Kennedy retires this summer. And now you go from a 5-4 balance in the Supreme Court to a 6-3 balance.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump could pick John Wayne out of the grave to be a conservative justice, and he'll get the votes that he needs.
Well, that's another thing the liberals are saying right now. Some of them are saying we shouldn't we should keep our powder dry and fight the next battle, meaning the next battle when Kennedy or Ginsburg or one of those people that are in their 80s eventually leave the court, and it might be this summer, it might be next year, who knows, okay? But you think there's been a lot of fighting over Judge Neil Gorsuch? Wait for the next nominee. Wait for Donald Trump's next nominee to the Supreme Court.
Because I don't think he's going to play nice and recommend a liberal to replace a liberal. He's going to put his stamp on the U.S. Supreme Court for the next 20 years, and I'm glad he is, and that's in fact why so many conservatives, especially conservative Christians, voted for him. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia. And as you know, around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. I'm Kevin Wade. In the studio with me is, as always on Monday, it's Rick Trader, and we'll be right back.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamb-Menier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Menier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We, the people, never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Kevin Wade and yours truly, Rick Trader. For rebroadcasts, please check out our website, ccrshow.com or CCRS Network, or at 11 a.m. Log on to Red Nation Rising Radio, or midnight, redstatetalkradio.com, or you can hear our show from your phone by calling 832-999-1199. As I mentioned, Kevin Wade is my co-host today, and as usual, Kevin, on Monday, I always look forward to your commentary.
My commentary today is titled Russian Boogeymen. Now, let me start the commentary about the Russian boogeymen with two quick and very obvious facts. Fact one, the mainstream media is not journalism. It's a propaganda refuge, sanctuary city, if you will, for the last holdouts of a failed and widely rejected ideology called progressive liberalism. Saddam Hussein had Baghdad Bob. Pelosi, Schumer, and Hillary Clinton have the New York Times. Fact two, Clinton's campaign emails were authentic. They were copied using the crudest, lowest tech, quote-unquote, hacking 101 for dummies method known to millions, yes, millions, of amateur hackers around the world. John Podesta's campaign email password was PASSWORD. The hacker simply asked Podesta for his password. Podesta gave it up voluntarily after getting the okay from the Clinton campaign's, and I say this loosely, IT expert. This email break-in didn't need 100 KGB internet spies with a supercomputer in the basement of the Kremlin. The hack, the email theft, wherever it originated, only used a phishing email message saying, "Click on this link." John Podesta did. WikiLeaks published, and the rest is history. Let's tie facts 1 and 2 together with the election results of November 8th. The mainstream media shaped and twisted their news reports to elect Hillary Clinton to the White House. In their circle, among their pundits and pollsters, it was inconceivable that Donald Trump would win Florida, or North Carolina, or Pennsylvania, or Michigan, and beyond any possibility to win the state of Wisconsin. The media eagerly highlighted Trump's flaws and stumbles. There were many to report, and the media did. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But elections aren't decided by pundits and editors of the New York Times. They're decided by the voters in the individual states. By 2 a.m. in the morning of November 9th, both Baghdad Bob and the New York Times were in shock. How could they, the elites, so many, so well-connected, so smart, so self-confident, have been so stunningly wrong? How could their candidate, so qualified, so well-financed, so prepared, so ready to govern, and in their eyes, so mainstream, lose to Donald Trump? How could they understand, let alone explain, this freakish result? It was contrary to all they knew and understood. It shouldn't happen. It couldn't happen. It was like a blizzard in July, or a Washington Democrat quoting Holy Scripture. Something that just can't happen in the world in which they live. Wiser people would have stopped and checked the inventory of their lives, views and values. Like an addict or alcoholic who finds that rock-bottom moment of truth and finally sees he must take a new road to change to get clean and sober. No, the last liberals in their refuge couldn't do that. Even at rock bottom, they instead kept digging deeper and deeper to turn sensational claims based on fantastic fantasies. It was the Russians. It had to be the Russians. Yes, that's it. The Russians collaborated with the Trump campaign to throw the election. What else could it be? During the campaign, while the world was searching for Hillary Clinton's 30,000 missing emails from her ill-spent days as Secretary of State, candidate Trump asked a rhetorical question. Maybe the Russians can find them. The liberals fixed on this like a moth circling a flame. The Democrat paranoia even reached the point of using the intelligence services of the United States to wiretap, more accurately to surveil, communications of the Trump campaign. Though this break-in of those citizens' constitutional rights of privacy began much earlier, it was during the campaign that high officials in the Obama administration illegally unmasked the identity of their political opponents. This is a federal felony. After the election, President Obama in his final months ordered the same illegally captured information to be widely circulated through the government. This grew the pool of potential leakers of distorted and piecemeal information. Information, again, tainted by the corrupt and illegal means by which it was taken. More so, I believe this wide circulation was to provide a cover for the guilty administration officials. By expanding the pool of possible suspects, you can overwhelm the effectiveness of any future investigator by the sheer size of the suspect list. Moving forward to the last week of December, the Obama administration released a summary of all the intelligence agencies, concluding the Russians collected information by computer attacks and used that information to interfere with the election of November. Now, I've spent most of my life working in detail with computers, servers, and networks for the largest companies in America. I'm no hacker, nor ever would be, but I understand the range of possibilities and the hacker technologies behind these. I will apply my own professional characterization of the intelligence agency summary. It was junk. It was a dog's breakfast of claims and sample code snippets in hacker names, handles, or pseudonyms, if you will, none of which pointed decisively to Russia or any place else. The alleged samples of code could have been written by anyone in hacker circles. The hacker names are really nothing but Halloween masks that anyone can wear. Maybe, listeners, maybe you've received a bogus email from a known friend's account. That email has nothing to do with your friend. Instead, it asks you to click on a link to buy a miracle vitamin. Now you know how easy it is to put on a Halloween mask to be someone else in the world of the Internet. The fact that all these intelligence agencies agreed with Obama's desired conclusions seems to add some weight. Yet the heads of these same agencies have lied to Congress in the past. None of these enemies predicted the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center, or had it right about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, or warned Ambassador Stevens about the pending attack at Benghazi. None of these agencies have stood before the American people to admit they're not very good at providing accurate intelligence, or timely intelligence for that matter. We do know that President Obama used the power of the executive to corrupt the nonpartisan internal workings of government, of many government institutions. Lois Lerner of the IRS might jog your memory and serve as an example. What is happening on the liberal side is that an ever smaller refuge is a full-blown delusional fit rejecting Donald Trump as president. They have nothing else to hang their hats on or their careers in and around the swamps of Washington. Reality be damned. It has to be the Russians. One more take on the reality the liberals refuse to accept. All the campaign emails were authentic and painted an ugly picture of ugly personalities behind an ugly ideology. Those emails went into public circulation because John Podesta again clicked on an unknown link and gave up his password, and his password was password. The hack was so crude and simple that high school kids could have done it as easily as the Russians or the French or the Japanese or a disgruntled liberal lunatic on the Democrat National Committee staff. Democrats lost in 2016 for the same reason they lost in 2014 and 2010. Their ideas don't work, and they're not trusted by the American people. The Democrat leadership and their propaganda arm in the mainstream media can't accept it. They're digging deeper and deeper holes because of their withdrawal into fantasy. In the end, that's good. America needs two good parties contending to solve America's problems, each grounded in reality. Further, our country needs a free and responsible press to expose rights and wrongs. We don't have that now. One day the Democrats will again be responsible, and the press will be honest enough. This will come after many investigations, charges, and convictions of those who abused American freedoms, our privacy protections, and the integrity of the voters. It will be a painful journey. In the end, we'll all be better off and live in a better country. This is just one of many steps in making America great again. I'm Kevin Wade, and that's the way I see it.
Kevin, another great commentary, and you pointed out some great things in here. Number one, okay, if these hacks were made, where was the security that was supposed to prevent these hacks? Number two, everything that was in these emails was authentic to the point where the Democrats aren't saying there's any lies in there. And number three, Trump is president. That's all that needs to be said. Kevin, take us to break.
We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, around the world on the internet with our stations broadcasting on stream live, SHR Media, P90, iHeartRadio, AM, allin.com. I'm Kevin Wade. Rick Rader is in the studio. You stay with us. We'll be right back with our first guest.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 a.m., or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Kevin Wade and yours truly, Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast, some people might refer to them as podcasts, but please check out our websites, ccrshow.com or CCRS Network, or at 11 a.m., log on to Red Nation Rising Radio, or at midnight, log on to redstatetalkradio.com, or you could hear our show from your phone by calling 832-999-1199. Kevin Wade, we have our first guest with us. Will you please make that introduction?
Yeah, I'm Kevin Wade. I'm in the studio with Rick Trader. You guys are listening to WNJC 1360. It's about 3:37 here in the East Coast, if you're listening on a time-shifted broadcast. First guest of the day, Cliff Kincaid, is the Director of Accuracy and Media Center for Director of Let's start again. Sorry, Cliff. Cliff Kincaid is the Director of Accuracy in Media Center for Investigative Journalism, a veteran journalist and media critic. He currently specializes in election coverage, the fairness doctrine, coverage of the United Nations, and coverage of financial bailouts. He regularly appears on television and radio programs, including the CBS Evening News, NBC's Today Show, Lou Dobbs, The Glenn Beck Show, Fox and Friends, O'Reilly, Hannity and Combs, The Savage Nation, Laura Ingraham, The Gallagher Show, and so on and so on. And with that, let's get to this interview. Cliff Kincaid, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Yeah, it's great to be with you.
You have a column out Friday last week, actually, and title is First They Came for Judge Napolitano. What the heck are you talking about?
Well, I feel a little sad and guilty that you mentioned I'd been on Bill O'Reilly's show because we all know what's been happening in the news with him, all these sexual harassment cases. And I think that's a good way to start my discussion about that column, because here you got a case of Bill O'Reilly on Fox News having to pay $13 million to a bunch of people he sexually harassed, allegedly, quote unquote, and yet Judge Napolitano, their senior judicial analyst, who's been with the channel since 1998, gets suspended for a few days for offering his opinion about the illegal surveillance of Donald Trump. And I bring it up. I say first they come for Andrew Napolitano because this is ominous that a network would censor their own correspondent, Judge Napolitano, take him off the air, and yet they're standing by Bill O'Reilly after $13 million of payoffs for sexual harassment. I mean, this should outrage anybody.
Well, maybe it's a matter of Judge Napolitano made his statements on air, and whatever the truth is about Bill O'Reilly's conduct behind the cameras, it wasn't something that necessarily had the imprint of Fox News associated with it.
Well, I'm afraid that you need to look at the details surrounding these sexual harassment complaints. Many of them involve employees of Fox News.
But how does this relate to Judge Napolitano? I mean, obviously you believe the judge was unfairly suspended from Fox News.
I'm drawing a distinction between a channel that stands by an alleged sexual harasser and the same channel who takes a respected analyst off the air who's on their own payroll because he offers his opinion that the British NSA had assisted in the illegal surveillance of Trump. The whole point of my column was to stand up for a commentator on Fox News who should be backed by the channel. This is not the kind of treatment you accord a former judge who's been with the channel since 1998. He didn't do anything wrong. He's on the air to offer his opinion, and he had his own sources to back it up.
Was he able to bring those sources on air, or were they unnamed?
Well, they were unnamed, but one of them did come forward. A former CIA operative, Larry Johnston, came forward and said he was one of the sources. You know, why is it, though, that, named or not, the judge cannot be given backup by a channel to offer his opinion? Look, the idea that the British assisted in the illegal surveillance of Trump is not a crazy notion. We know, in my column, I actually link to a document from the NSA in which they talk about how they work with the British, how the British work with them, how they've had this collaboration going on for decades. So this isn't some wild speculation. It's an informed opinion. Judge Napolitano had his own sources. He was offering his opinion based on his sources. This channel, Fox, is becoming a stinking embarrassment.
Well, they continue to be number one in the rankings. So until Bill O'Reilly and others begin to become number 2 and number 3, they're fairly assured of keeping their position at the microphone in their time slots. I think that's a matter of business. But I like Judge Napolitano, and I wish he was not suspended. But if the network is going to give some appearance of being fair and balanced now he doesn't do hard news. He does opinion work. But if you're basing your opinion on something that just can't be substantiated, you're at risk. Dick Morris doesn't get a lot of camera time anymore. Karl Rove was banished to the Badlands for quite a while after his failed prognostications in the presidential election of 2012. You know how it works.
Well, Dick Morris hasn't worked for the channel for over a year. Karl Rove, you talk about offering opinions without substantiation. He was against Trump from the start. 4 years ago, he had predicted Mitt Romney would win the election. I mean, talk about people who get it wrong.
No, and he got it terribly wrong, and he embarrassed himself on
but
election
he wasn't
night.
Offended. Bill O'Reilly, talk about getting things wrong. He's been accused of making things up from his own background about how he supposedly risked his life covering the war in the Falklands when he was in a hotel room covering the conflict. I mean, my gosh, it's all about ratings, isn't it? It's all about money. That's all that matters at Fox. Plus, in the case of Napolitano, because he challenges the liberal media narrative about what's going on with the Russians and Trump, he has to be taken off the air. I can't imagine anybody defending this kind of corporate conduct whose bottom line is just obscene profit.
Well, Cliff, we'll pick this up on the other side of a break if you'll agree to stay with us.
Sure.
We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia. And around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, IR Radio, and AM FM 24/7, theallinan.com. I'm Kevin Wade. Rick Trader is in the studio. And Cliff Kincaid is our first guest. He's staying with us. You stay with us, too. We'll be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We the people never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Hey, thanks for staying with us. We're broadcasting from WNJC 1360 AM in Philadelphia, and also simulcast on many radio stations around the country. AM 1360 Tampa, Florida. AM 1520 Las Vegas, Nevada. AM 810 Macon, Georgia. AM 1640 Lancaster, PA. And FM 96.3 in Boulder, and FM 90.3 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and other places as well. So from the studios of WNJC, if you're listening now or time shifted later today, hey, thanks for being with us. As always, we're brought to you by the First Amendment and defended by the Second Amendment. Cliff Kincaid, stay with us through the break. He's Director of Accuracy and Media Center for Investigative Journalism. He's a veteran journalist and media critic, and he's here with talking about his recent column on Friday last week. First, they came from Judge Napolitano. Cliff, thanks for staying with us.
My pleasure.
So, what's next for Judge Napolitano?
Well, he was brought back, very uncomfortable on-air appearance where Bill Hemmer said, oh, you've been off a few days, and sort of joked about it. It's not a joke. It's not a laughing matter when you've got a channel like Fox News sticking by an alleged sexual harasser like O'Reilly despite the fact he makes a lot of money for them. And then they basically censor Judge Napolitano. Now, after Napolitano talked about a British role in the surveillance of Trump, Fox brought on their gay activist anchor, Shepard Smith, to say, oh, we can't confirm that. We find no evidence that what Judge Napolitano said is true. Well, okay, let's have a discussion about it. There's no reason to take one side of the argument off the air. Let's have a debate about it. What did Fox News do to investigate Judge Napolitano's claim? What exactly did they do? Did they investigate it? Who did they ask about it? As I point out, Larry Johnson, a former CIA operative, came forward to validate what Judge Napolitano said. And yet Fox News, they take a guy who's been with them since 1998 off the air. They humiliate him. They embarrass him. They treat him with disrespect. And then they say when he's not on the air, well, we couldn't confirm what he had said. Well, tell the viewers exactly what kind of inquiry they conducted. You know, this kind of thing, conservatives have to hold Fox News up to a high standard. They just can't rationalize this kind of conduct by saying, well, they're number one in the ratings and Bill O'Reilly makes a lot of money. Is that the standard for modern journalism today?
No, it's a standard for business, but their business is fair and balanced, and their business is that they have to be a trusted source of both hard news and opinion. And there's a difference between hard news and opinion. You know it well, Cliff. But when one of your and Judge Napolitano was one of the leading figures offering up opinion journalism at Fox News. Wide audience. I'm one of his fans. But if you get it so wrong, if you get it now, maybe he didn't get it wrong at all. But if you're making extraordinary claims, you need to have extraordinary evidence. You don't pull the meatloaf out of the oven too soon.
You think it's really extraordinary to assume that the British were involved in this when we know that the phony Trump dossier was concocted by a former British intelligence agent, a dossier, by the way, that has no facts, no truth in it? We know there was a British connection. We know that Hillary Clinton's people paid for that dossier, and then the FBI, incredibly enough, was considering paying some British operatives even more money for some more phony allegations. So we know there's a British connection. It doesn't take a big leap to consider the possibility, as Napolitano said, with some evidence, based on his informed opinion, that the British NSA was involved in this too. This is not extraordinary. If anything, our media have totally downplayed the seriousness of this Watergate-style scandal that has been developing for a couple weeks now. We just found out today that Susan Rice, Obama's national security advisor, was involved in illegally, quote, unmasking some of the names of the Trump associates in the illegal surveillance. So what is extraordinary about any of this? We're learning more every day about how corrupt the Obama administration was, and we're going to find out even more. We, in my opinion, need a big kind of congressional investigation beyond the committees to look into this aspect of it. Who gave the name of Michael T. Flynn to the Washington Post reporter or columnist David Ignatius, who then illegally published it? Who illegally leaked that information? I mean, these are the extraordinary questions that Judge Napolitano should have been kept on the air to offer his opinion about.
No, and I agree with you in all that. I mean, this morning apparently Susan Rice was named as the person who did the unmasking. If she did not have rock solid reasons to expose the identity of an American citizen who was caught up in coincidental surveillance, if she doesn't have a rock solid reason, she's committed a felony and she will go and do hard time in a federal penitentiary. But the reporter, and I don't have that in front of me, the reporter who broke that news will be expected sometime in the next week or two to start to provide some additional tie-ins to substantiate, or else that reporter will also be on unpaid hiatus.
No, the reporter, the columnist, David Ignatius, is a member in good standing in the Washington Post. That's my point. You got somebody like Judge Napolitano who simply offers an opinion about one aspect of this growing scandal, and he's off the air. But the Washington Post columnist who gets the illegal leak of classified information naming Flynn, and then he publishes it, which is another illegal act, a potential felony, earning 10 years in prison, he doesn't get banned. He doesn't get censored. He doesn't get suspended from the Washington Post. No, they treat him like a hero. And this shows the really big double standard. You got the liberal media who are determined to bring down Trump. They'll commit any kind of violation of the law that they think is acceptable.
Well, I agree with you, Cliff. I agree with you on that.
And yet, Fox News will not really pursue the Watergate-style angle in all of this, and by getting rid of Napolitano just for a few days, they send the message that don't really get into this, don't probe this, don't investigate this, because that's going to hurt our reputation with the rest of the liberal media. Well, that makes me sick.
Well, I didn't see Sean Hannity dialing it back at all on any given evening episode that I've watched. He's been all over this case.
And I've praised Hannity for doing that.
And at last I heard he worked for Fox News.
That's the irony of what they did to Napolitano. What a disgrace. And Napolitano's been there since 1998, and they do this to a respected former judge. You know, I mean, my gosh, shame on Fox News.
Hey, Cliff Kincaid, we have about 1 minute. How do our listeners stay current with what you're writing and working on?
Well, they go to aim.org and simply sign up for our daily update or newsletter, and they'll get even more good stuff on a daily basis.
Cliff Kincaid, Director of Accuracy and Media Center for Investigative Journalism, thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Hey, Rick, great interview. First interview to kick off the week. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network and ccrshow.com. Or at 11 a.m., log on to Red State Rising Radio, or at midnight, log on to redstatetalkradio.com, and you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone, anywhere, by calling 832-999-1199. I'm Kevin Wade. Rick Trader's in the studio. We're going to have another guest, though, in about 5.5 minutes. You stay with us. We will be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Hey, thanks for staying with us. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're broadcasting WNJC 1360 AM in Philadelphia and also simulcast around the country on radio stations FM 92.1 Tampa, FM 99.5 Las Vegas, FM 87.9 in Macon, Georgia, and FM 102.1 in Lancaster and several other places as well. Hey, thank you folks who are listening all over the fruited plains. It is Monday, the third day in April in the year of our Lord 2017. Beautiful day in the mid-Atlantic. And I'm glad to be with you. I'm Kevin Wade. Rick Trader's in the studio as well. Our next guest is Rich Swire. He's a 23-year Army veteran who retired as a lieutenant colonel in 1990. He was awarded the Legion of Merit for his years of service. Additionally, he was awarded 2 Bronze Stars with V for heroism in ground combat, the Presidential Unit Citation, and the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry while serving with the 101st Airborne Division there. He's a graduate of the Field Artillery Officers Basic and Advanced Courses and the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College. Rich was state editor for RedCounty.com, former talk show host of the Dr. Rich Show, and former editor of Watchdog Wire in Florida, an internationally read website dedicated to exposing government fraud and waste and abuse. And with that, we're glad that he's here with us. Dr. Rich Swire, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Well, it's a distinct privilege and an honor to be on the show, and thank you so much.
Hey, you want to talk about an article out recently about Rollins College allegedly suspending conservative after that conservative challenged Islamic student who threatened gays. What the heck is going on in Rollins College? And better yet, where is Rollins College?
Rollins College is located in Florida. It's located in the Orlando area. Anybody ever been to Orlando? Rollins College is not very far from there. It is an interesting story in that it popped up because, as everyone knows, there are a growing number of Middle Eastern studies departments on various college campuses, colleges and universities. And apparently there is a growing need for colleges to want to explain to their students about Islam. And it's not unlike what we see in K through 12 public schools. And one of the adjunct professors at Rollins College, Arij Zafari, offers a course. It's an elective course, and it was taken by a young man named Marshall Polston. Marshall is a Christian. I don't know if he's a conservative or not, but he certainly is a Christian. And apparently, Professor Zafari began her first class challenging the Christian faith by saying the crucifixion of Jesus Christ was a hoax and that his disciples did not believe he was divine. And, of course, Mr. Polson took exception to that, as well as a statement made by another unidentified Muslim student who said to the effect that gays who are caught in sodomy should be summarily executed, their hands chopped off, their heads chopped off, so on, so on, so on. And so he took offense to that and ended up getting suspended. And today, on Monday, April the 3rd, 2017, he was suspended on March 26th, and on April 3rd, 2017, which is today, he has been reinstated as a student at Rollins College. So that's the good news. The bad news is this is not a unique situation. There is a group, I don't know if you remember, but President Trump, at his inauguration, vowed to, quote, fight radical Islamic terrorism and, quote, eradicate it from the face of the earth. And I contend that perhaps one of the places the president could start is on our own college and university campuses. There's a wonderful organization out there called the Canary Mission. That's C-A-N-A-R-Y Mission. You can find them at canarymission.org. And right now they have a list of 128 professors located on 69 American colleges and university campuses that are promoting hatred. And all of them basically have the same view as Zufari at Rollins College. And that is what is frightening, I think, when we look at the higher education landscape in America, and it's very tragic. It's tragic that we're having students attend courses. Some of them, most of them, I'm sure, are not required, but these kinds of Middle Eastern courses, which are teaching our students a false notion about what Islam is all about, without providing a counterbalance on what Christianity is all about, or Judaism, or whatever. So it's a very frightening situation.
What roles do these professors fill in these different colleges and universities?
Well, it just depends. Is there a university or college near you?
Many.
Huh?
There are many. Very many.
Oh, there are many. Okay. Well, let me just pick one, like Columbia University. There's a professor named Rashid Khalidi. And Rashid Khalidi is a professor at Columbia University. And he is the Edward Syed Professor of Modern Arab Studies at Columbia University and director of the Middle East Institute of Columbia School of International and Public Affairs. He was formerly the spokesperson of the PLO under Yasser Arafat.
Unbelievable.
Now let's think about that for a minute. Let's think about that for a minute, Rick. You have the former spokesman for the PLO under Yasser Arafat, a terrorist, who is heading a modern Arab studies program at Columbia University. These are the kind of people that are part and parcel of what I call in an article I just published. These are the kind of people that are essentially part of the Islamic supremacist iceberg system. That's little ISIS. ISIS is like the Islamic State, all in caps. Well, this is ISIS in lowercase. And what they are pushing is an Islamic ideology, and in many cases they are supporting and literally preaching to their students a radical Islamist philosophy, particularly wrapped in the idea of freeing Palestine, that Israel is an apartheid state, and that students must rally behind the oppressed Palestinian people and boycott, divest, and sanction the state of Israel. That's the philosophy that is prevalent on college campuses across the United States. And that's just one example. My alma mater in St. Louis, one of my alma maters, at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., is a Professor Sharia Robinson. Does anybody know what Sharia law is?
Well, I think our audience is high information.
All right, the audience understands what Sharia, but her name is Sharia without the H. Well, you can spell Sharia with a S-H-I-R-A. But she is an associate professor of history and international affairs at George Washington University, right in the heart of Washington, D.C. She's an active supporter of the boycott, divest, and sanction movement. During her undergraduate study, University of Michigan, she was chair of the Palestinian Solidarity Committee. She also graduated. She's a graduate student at Stanford University, and when you her book is, she wrote a book, Sharia Robinson, her book is the main subject of her book is racism deliberately built into Israel is deliberately built into Israel's legal and political DNA in order to maintain the privilege of Jewish immigrant settlers at the expense of the indigenous Arab minority.
Hey, Rich, we're coming up into a break. Would you be willing to stay with us so we can continue this conversation on the other side?
Sure, if you want, yeah.
Yeah, I certainly do. And what I'd like you to think about while we're on break is what, in your mind, identifies these professors as being particularly troublesome in a world of wacky liberal professors, okay? Because the wackiness you're describing...
Makes them stand out, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to stand out in that loony crowd unless you're, like, carrying a Bible or a copy of the Constitution. But Rich Swire is going to stay with us, and he's going to come back with some additional answers. We appreciate him being with us today, and I know our audience does. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia. And around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7, theallinit.com. I'm Kevin Wade. Rick Trader's in the studio. We'll be here on the other side of the break. I want you to be here, too.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the Internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamb-Menier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Menier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We, the people, never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, "All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent." Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
You are listening, I guarantee, to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. I'm Kevin Wade, and we were having a little bit of levity that we can't possibly share with you in the studio. But trust me, it's a good group here. We're broadcasting from the studios of WNJC 1360 AM. That's amplitude modulation in the Philadelphia market. And also simulcast on radio stations around the country, AM 1360 Tampa, AM 1520 Las Vegas, AM 810 Macon, Georgia, AM 1640 Lancaster, PA, up where the horse and buggies are, FM 90.3 Milwaukee, FM 94.7 in Pittsburgh, and all the way out there in Long Beach, California, where the Queen Mary, I think, is tied up. You can take a tour on FM 101.5. Thanks for staying with us. This is a Monday, and it's the first Monday in the month of April. And for those of you who, like me, have been dodging, preparing the taxes, get a move on it. I'll be like my spouse, get a move on it. The date's not going to change. It's not waiting for you. So Rich Swire is with us. He's an Army veteran, served as lieutenant colonel up until 1990. He's been awarded the Legion of Merit for years of service, 2 Bronze Stars with V for heroism in ground combat while serving with the legendary 101st Airborne in Vietnam. And most importantly, he is here with us now talking about Rollins College allegedly suspending a conservative when he challenged an Islamic student who threatened gay people. Let's go back to the question. First of all, thanks for staying with us. The question is, how do these professors, associate professors, assistant professors, teaching aides, who typically are in these Islamic studies departments, how do they differ? What distinguishes their version of craziness from just the folks over in the English department or the history department, those who are trying to reinvent use of the language and reinvent our own American history? How do they separate themselves, and why is that an extra concern, Rich?
Well, I think it's their belief system. It's interesting because some of them are actually in English departments too. You kind of mentioned that. It depends on where they are located, but their ideology is the same ideology. It's the ideology of Islamic supremacism, and what that means essentially is, I don't know if you've ever heard the term fitna.
No, no.
If you read the Quran, fitna appears in the Quran over 60 times, and fitna, actually, jihad only appears about 30 times, but fitna is the key concept. Any fitna is anything that, any resistance to Islam. And what we saw at Rollins College between the interaction and what occurred between Professor Zufari and a Christian, Marshall Polston, is fitna. In other words, he resisted her attempt to convert him to Islam. And in fitna, the fitna is worse than the slaughter, according to the Quran. So the slaughter is secondary to you resisting Islam. So that is what separates. Now, you can slaughter somebody without literally cutting their throat. In the case of Zafari, what she did is after Mr. Polston sent her an email questioning why she gave him a failing grade, which is a means of, in the academic arena, is a form of slaughter. If I fail you in a course, but he was a straight A student, by the way. So if I give you an F grade, that's a form of slaughter. But she went one step further. She contacted the college's administration and filed a complaint saying that he was stalking her. Well, that, according to film taken at the time she said he was stalking her, there was no indication that Mr. Polston at all was stalking her. And so now you have the question of whether or not she filed a false police report with the campus police. So that's how you do it. You take someone who doesn't agree. I mean, she never questioned what the unnamed Muslim student said about, slaughtering gays and so on, but she took tremendous offense when a Christian questioned her fundamental belief system. That causes fitna. That causes her to be upset. That causes the Ummah, the Muslim community, to be upset. Now, I can't determine whether or not she votes as a Democrat.
Have you determined if she's an American citizen?
I mean, she could have voted for Donald Trump.
Rich, have you determined if she's an American citizen?
Yeah. She is. She's actually a second-generation American citizen. But this is the same. It's the philosophy that separates them. Now, what's unusual is what you will see, because most college professors, or many, let me just say many, are supporters of the Democratic Party. They hold the same ideals. Some of them, follow a Marxist-Leninist view, socialism kind of a view. The Islamist is also a supremacist philosophy, but it is not atheistic like Marxist-Leninist is. So you have Bernadette Dorn and Bill Ayers on one side teaching at the University of Florida, pure Marxist-Leninists. They're teaching in the College of Education. And then you have Zafari and these other, many other, if you will, professors teaching at these different universities from an Islamic perspective. We call that the Red-Green Alliance. Let me just quickly understand. The red being obviously the Marxist-Leninist, progressive, socialist, Bernie Sanders type, and the Islamist being, the deputy chairman of the Keith Ellison, the deputy chairman of the Democratic Party. So he is the Islamist, if you will. And so you have the Red-Green Alliance, okay? And it was interesting. I'll give you a quick, and I hope I have enough time to cover this. When I was in Germany, I was a young captain.
Well, I need to tell you we have about 2 minutes left on the segment.
Okay. Well, and I'll just say that we have what we're seeing on campus. What separates them is their ideology, which is a supremacist. The individual does not matter. The individual must submit to the ideology of Islam. But they are kumbaya with their Marxist-Leninist college professor compatriots in the same idea. Now, eventually, one of them is going to reign supreme, and it's most likely the one with the sword. So, having said all that, I think that's what really separates the Zafaris that we see in all these different campuses. And again, I would argue that what happened in
Rich,
is not unusual.
Rich, we're down to the last 10 seconds. How can our listeners stay current with what you're up to?
drrichswire.com. There's several articles on there.
Thanks for your time and joining us today. We do appreciate it. We just ran out of time.
It's an honor and a pleasure.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios. We're broadcasting from WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and all over the darn world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM FM 24/7. I'm Kevin Wade. Rick Trader's in the studio. Thanks for being with us. We're going to be right back on the other side.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow Patriots, The Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Thanks for staying with us. I want to remind you, we are broadcasting on WNJC 1360 AM in Philadelphia, and also simulcast on radio stations FM 92.1 in Tampa, FM 87.9 Macon, Georgia, FM 102.1 Lancaster, PA, FM 94.7 in Pittsburgh, and FM 101.5 Long Beach, California. It's 4:36 on the East Coast. If you're watching on a delayed broadcast, you'll know what time it is at your place. I'm Kevin Wade in the studio with Rick Trader, and I want to thank all of our listeners for being with us today, this 3rd of April. Our final guest today, saving the best for last, is Bob Dorigo Jones. He serves as a senior fellow for the Center for America. He's the author of the best-selling Remove Child Before Folding, the 101 stupidest, silliest, and wackiest warning labels ever. And he's the host of a new national radio and internet commentary, Let's Be Fair. And we sometimes run that, but we prefer to have Bob Dorigo Jones here in person, and so he is. Bob, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos.
Hi, thanks for having me back on. Appreciate your kind introduction.
You well deserve it. You had a column out last week, I believe it was maybe Thursday last week, and the headline, the title is, "It's About Bloody Time Someone Cuts Excessive Government Regulation." Where are you going with that?
Yes, well, we at the Center for America are all about educating Americans about all of the barriers that government puts in the way to a better economy, and whether it has to do with the courts and frivolous lawsuits or the government with regulations and taxes, we are trying to increase awareness of this so that everybody's empowered to do something about it. And regulation has been a hot topic over the last few months as the Trump administration has come into office and began work. But I don't know that people fully understand just how far regulation reaches into our daily lives, whether it's at home and different things that we do in organizations we volunteer for, or at work. So we did this to capitalize on a comment, getting back to the "it's bloody time," a comment that none other than Greg Norman, the famous golfer, made on Fox News last week when he was asked a very simple question. What do you think of Trump fulfilling his campaign promises to roll back regulations and to make it easier for businesses to do business? And he just replied without hesitation, "It's about bloody time." And we thought that was a great launching point for an article.
I know that we sometimes talk with Heritage, we talk with CEI, other groups that are continuing to support and explain the arms of free market capitalism, and we're constantly cautioned about the hidden costs of regulation. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, it really is a hidden cost. It doesn't appear on any of the invoices we get when we buy something, but an organization called the Competitive Enterprise Institute did the hard work of trying to estimate the total cost of what it takes everyone to comply with all these regulations that are either imposed by Congress or imposed by the faceless bureaucracy in going about doing what they think Congress wants them to do or what they think is their own agenda. And it's a hard thing to measure, but if you have to hire accountants and lawyers and so on and so forth to ensure that you're complying, if you have to add certain parts to your business in order to comply, all of these things add up to a tremendous cost of $1.8 trillion per year. And one of the things I talked about in the
radio commentary that we do often on your show, is that when we get into numbers that end in billions and trillions, it's hard to comprehend just how big those are and to put them into context. So what we try to do at the Center for America is put issues like this into context. And what we do is compare that to that amount, that $1.8 trillion, to a couple things. One is that amount of money is actually more than all of the federal income taxes and federal corporate taxes that are collected by the federal government every year.
That's fascinating.
It's hard to believe it could be that much every single year. If it was maybe one time and we could spread it over 10 or 20 years, that'd be one thing. But this is a cost, and it's a tremendous cost. And that's why you can see it's so important for businesses large and small, and why you have somebody who you might not think would care enough to go on national television, like a golfer like Greg Norman, and talk about the burden that regulations have become. But when somebody like that does it, I think it's worth noting that, and it's worth highlighting, because it illustrates just how pervasive this problem is and how overdue we are for regulatory reform in America.
Yeah, and if you take, I mean, as you stated, the cost of regulations to the American people exceed the cost of the personal and corporate income taxes that are being paid. I mean, this is a stunning burden on the people who are trying to compete with products and services around the world.
Yes, and our corporate income taxes are already amongst the highest in the world. So when you add all of these tax burdens and regulatory burdens, it's amazing that we can create any kinds of new jobs, because it does add so much. Now, we're innovative people. Americans are can-do people, and we'll get the job done, and we continue to do that. But we shouldn't put shackles on ourselves either that make it more difficult for our job providers to compete with other countries, with other employers in other countries.
Well, I'll leave you with an example. And when I'm not in the studio, I do other things. And I'm aware of the fact that we have federal regulations that say for a business to make a certain product, they have to measure the emissions. You know, what comes up the stack or goes down the pipe. And some trusty bureaucrat someplace wrote in the regulation, you will use the best available technology. This sounds so nice, the best available technology. But if the good enough technology costs $100 and the best available costs $100,000, you see the result in terms of adding cost to a product or service and its impact on employment. Hey, Bob Dorigo Jones, would you stay with us? We're going to go into a break right now, and we want to pick up this conversation on the other side.
Sounds good.
We're coming to you live from the studios of WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM, FM 24/7. They all end in .com. I'm Kevin Wade. Rick Trader is with me. Bob Dorigo Jones is staying. You stay with us. We have more to talk about in about 4 minutes and 14 seconds.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We, the people, never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Hey, thanks for staying with us. This is WNJC 1360 AM. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We broadcast live 5 days a week out of the wonderful studios of WNJC 1360 AM in Philadelphia and also around the country on AM 1360 in Tampa, AM 810 in Macon, Georgia, AM 1640 in Pennsylvania Dutch Country, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and FM 101 in Long Beach, California. Nice place, Long Beach. Bob Dorigo Jones is with us. He's a senior fellow for the Center for America and author of the best-selling Remove Child Before Folding, the 101 stupidest, silliest, and wackiest warning labels ever. And he's here talking about the mindset that produces regulations that require stupidest, silliest, and wackiest warning labels. Hey, Bob Dorigo Jones, thanks for staying with us.
My pleasure.
You mentioned in the first part of the interview that the cost... the Competitive Enterprise Institute estimates that the total cost of complying with these regulations is a whopping $1.8 trillion. That's with a T. That's more zeros than I can imagine. $1.8 trillion a year, which is more than the sum total of all personal and corporate tax payments.
Here's an even better analogy or comparison. If you took the entire cost of complying with all the federal regulations, that $1.8 trillion, and made it its own country, it would be the 8th largest country in the world. Compare it to the gross domestic product of everything made in a country like Canada or Mexico, and our cost of complying with regulations is still more. Everything, every good, every service made in those two countries. So it's just grown so large. When we look at the Federal Registers every year, more pages have been added over the last 8 years by the outgoing administration than by any administration ever by many, many times. So it's not that we're saying that we need to get rid of all regulations. We're just saying that it's gotten way too invasive in our personal lives and the business lives, and it's made it too hard to do the things that Americans want to do.
Yeah, we have a friend here at the station, Dr. Alita Eck. Some of our listeners may remember. She's from the Garden State of New Jersey, a medical doctor. She and her husband both, good Christian woman. And one day a week, she and her husband donate their time at a free clinic. And based in a small town, and they're accessible to people who don't have other solutions at hand. They don't ask for reimbursement either from the patient or from the government. But they do track, as fiscal conservatives, exactly what it costs to run that clinic. And their costs, not including the cost of the doctor's fees if they were to apply them, but the direct costs of treating each patient is $13. That's $13 per visit. If she were to run that clinic and apply for reimbursement from Medicaid, the reimbursement rate for the same visit would be about $150 or $160. The difference is she doesn't spend any time complying with federal regulations. She complies with good medical practice. That's a great example of the cost of government bureaucracies and their interference in the smallest of things in life.
Well, that's right. Yeah, healthcare is affected by this as much as any industry in America. We look at this from another point of view, too, and we talk a lot about regulations. I've often focused on litigation and the cost of what we call defensive medicine. And anybody who's involved in healthcare can tell you that defensive medicine is when tests and medicines are ordered by a physician to basically cover themselves because they're afraid they can be sued at any given time in America. Of course, it's not like this in any other country in the world. But because of the excessive fear of litigation and a rational fear of being sued, because you can't count on courts to do the right thing and throw out lawsuits that are not legitimate, that if we got a handle on the problem of defensive medicine, estimates are that it could save anywhere from $100 billion to $500 billion a year in the United States. So the healthcare industry is getting hits from all sides.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. You can go into an emergency room with a very severe case of indigestion. I mean, painful, unusual indigestion. But it's indigestion. And by the time you get out 7 hours later, you could have consumed $8,000 in emergency care between x-rays and images and blood work and stress tests. Thousands of dollars per hour while you're in there for basically 99% of the time, a bad case of indigestion. And that's exactly right. It's the defensive medicine that's being practiced. Now, why doesn't anyone in Washington simply go to the regulators and say, tell us when you're done? Because apparently at some point you have to get done. Every house gets painted. Every yard gets cut. Every car gets new tires. There's only 4. It doesn't go on for years. When would the regulators in some fields simply say, hey, we're done?
Right, you think they would, but they get too many members of Congress feel like they get paid or get recognition for every law they pass. You know, it's another headline, it's another press release, and they defer a lot of responsibility because government has gotten so big so that once they pass the laws, well, Congress doesn't have, the members don't have staffs large enough to oversee all this, so they have to delegate so much authority to the bureaucracy, the bureaucrats, that they've just lost track of everything that needs to be done. It's virtually impossible to know everything that government does. Nobody can possibly oversee it. So really, when something gets so large like that, like we're talking about, people say, let's change the income taxes so you can file them on a postcard. Well, we need to take the same basic approach to regulations so that at least we can comprehend it. Right now, it's impossible.
Exactly. I mean, basically, the folks in Washington have created a bureaucratic monster with an insatiable appetite to get bigger and bigger and have an even bigger appetite. And it's laws poorly written and a partisan divide that affects even the ability to provide legitimate oversight. Now, what about this Congressional Review Act of 1996 I'm hearing so much talk about as a means to remove regulations that were never, I'll call it, perfected in the way that they were released?
Right. Well, I guess there's the old saying, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And this Congressional Review Act makes it easy to create regulations, but by the same token, it makes it just as easy to remove them. So depending on who you have in the White House, you can go either way on how the act is employed to do whatever the majority in Congress wants to do. So now that we have somebody who's serious about reform in the White House saying that they're going to make cutting regulation a priority, then Congress can use the laws that they couldn't use under the previous administration to attack this problem. And you'll see it used in a wide variety of means, addressing all kinds of industries. So it could be a very positive thing.
Yeah, well, if the Republicans ever understand that they've been given a mandate by the people and elections count, and I don't know if they really understand that in Washington, they should have permanent groups working at combing through the worst of regulations to bring them up for removal under the authority of the Congressional Review Act. Typically, there is a 6-month, I believe it's a 6-month window after a regulation is promulgated, so to speak, for Congress to intervene and remove it. But if the regulation was not promulgated properly, which requires 3 things, they have to advise Congress in writing that there is a regulation. 2, they have to explain its costs to the American economy. And 3, they have to explain its benefits. If they fail to do those things, that regulation, although it could well be enforced for many years, was never perfected in its release. And that allows a regulation released in 2009, for example, to be removed by the Congress. And its removal by the Congress is better than a Republican president simply giving instructions that it not be enforced. Because if it's removed by congressional action under the Congressional Review Act of 1996, that agency can never, ever, for eternity, reissue a similar regulation. Hey, I'm sorry to be chatting so much, but you prompt so much for me to comment on. Hey, Bob Dorigo Jones, we're coming up in the final minute here. Could you tell our listeners how to stay current with what you're up to?
Yes, they can go to centerforamericatv.org and hear any of the recent broadcasts that we've done with Let's Be Fair and see how they might be able to enter a contest that we often talk about called the Wacky Warning Label Contest that led to that book, Remove Child Before Folding, which, by the way, is in reference to a warning label on a baby stroller. So, yes, we encourage your listeners to go to our website and get involved.
Bob Dorigo Jones, Senior Fellow at the Center for America, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Hey, Rick Trader, great show as always.
A great show as always. And Kevin, I'd like to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. I also want to thank our guest, Cliff Kincaid from Accuracy in Media, Dr. Rich Swire, our most recent guest, Bob Dorigo Jones. I'll leave it to you to wrap up.
Hey, as always, we do it for you, our audience. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for staying with us. Thanks for being loyal listeners. God bless each and every one of you, and may God save the United States of America.
1360 AM. WNJC. Washington Township, Philadelphia.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.